like we're getting several people in. Welcome everybody to the interest session for the English department. We're gonna wait just a couple more minutes as we see people coming in here. We also have a couple of other English majors. I hope that will be able to join us. I can introduce you now to Amelia Picard. You can wave, Amelia.
Hello.
This is Amelia. She is, oh, excellent. She is a graduating senior, and Danielle Setniker
Hello.
is a junior English major. Josiah, welcome. Can you introduce yourself so I can see if I can hear you?
Nope.
Not quite yet. Michaela, can you hear us?
You know?
Excellent.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you yet.
Okay.
That's okay.
It's possible that this computer won't support audio and video.
Well, then let's keep your audio.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Amelia,
Josiah, are you still here? Okay, welcome everybody. We are glad you're here. And I want to spend a little bit of time introducing the English major, and then I'm going to interview some of our English majors that we have currently. And then I'm going to leave you for about 15 minutes so you can just ask them questions. And you can ask questions in your Q&A chat column that you should be able to access at the bottom of your screen. So we come to the English major because we like to read, and we like to write, and we like to think. And while we are developing those skills, we're also learning really important skills that are saleable skills that everybody in the workforce needs. You're learning not only to communicate, but you're also learning to research, you're learning to edit, you're learning to process difficult information, and you're learning to problem solve, and you're learning to work with other people. So all of those things you will need in the workforce. Simultaneously, one of the great advantages of the English major is that you are connecting the present with the past. So while you're learning all of these practical skills, you're also learning really broad knowledge. So while you're studying literature, you're also studying history, you're studying religion, you're studying sociology, you're studying aesthetics, you're studying psychology. So you learn all of these broad disciplines in other areas too. So you're a valuable thinker, not only in that you have these practical, saleable skills, but you also have this broad knowledge. We like to say in the English major too that you have the advantage not only of learning under teachers and learning under your classmates as teachers, but you're really studying under some of the best teachers in the history of the world, because you are studying some of the best writers. And those writers are getting you to think in ways that you haven't thought before. They're getting you to process incredibly complex concepts, and they're learning to put you at ease processing difficult information. So difficult not just technically, but difficult just in the kinds of concepts that our writers get us to think about. So you're studying under the best writers, and you're studying under the best thinkers. And because of that, our English majors are really at ease processing difficult information. They're at ease dealing with both abstract and theoretical concepts, as well as really detailed and practical concepts too. And in that way, you're incredibly valuable. You're taking an incredibly valuable major that will put you in a good position to not only work in the workforce, but put you in a good position to keep yourself in contact with the kinds of ideas and the kinds of writing that you love, which is why you're likely in English major in the first place. Our major tries to prepare you with all of these skills by teaching you a broad range of literature classes, also classes in creative writing, and classes in theory, classes in film, and classes in grammar. So we just want to make sure everyone can be a strong writer when they leave and an excellent thinker. In our English department, we also help you to actually learn the kinds of skills that you likely use in a career. We are a fairly small department. We like to have all of our majors work for us in the department. So you will work with a major professor likely, learning to write on other people's papers, learning to do various clerical tasks. A lot of our majors also work in the tutoring center, so they help other students learn how to write, and many of our majors also work on the collegiate. So there are just a lot of jobs on campus where you can get really practical training, as well as, I say, the philosophical and aesthetic and theoretical training that you'll get within the English major too. So with that introduction, I actually want you to introduce you to our majors. And I have a representation here of the majors who are in our 3 different specialists. So we have a writing emphasis, a creative writing emphasis, an emphasis in literature, and an emphasis in teaching. Okay. So Danielle, I want to ask you first, why did you decide to become an English major?
I picked English, as you said, because I really always loved reading and writing. But more than that, I wanted a major that would be really flexible, because 3 years ago, I did not really know what I wanted to do once I graduated, and I wanted to have my options open to me. And contrary to what might be the stereotypical opinion, you do not have to be an English teacher with an English degree. So I am hoping now to go into a business setting and use what I have learned in probably ways that I don't even expect now. But I chose English because it would allow me to choose what I wanted to, and also because I really liked the professors when I visited. So,
Danielle, how did your parents think about your decision?
My mom is thrilled. I'm doing what she wished she had done when she was in college, just get something general and finish and then go out in the workforce. And my dad is just proud that I am doing what I am doing and doing well at it. So we're good there.
Excellent. Okay. Michaela? Can you hear me, Michaela?
I'm here.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, you are a representative of the creative writing emphasis, and how did you choose that emphasis? And I should ask you too, just because you come to the English major from a different discipline, why did you decide English ultimately?
Yeah, so when I first got into college, I was pre-med. I feel like this is everyone's story. I was pre-med my first 2 years, and I minored in English. And when I was in high school, I had this amazing English teacher who really just inspired this love of reading and writing in me. And I didn't see that as something that I could continue on with until I transferred actually to Walla Walla and joined the English department. I was still minored at my first quarter. I was still a minor in English. And it took me about half that quarter before I was like, well, this is what I should be doing with my life. The whole English department is incredible. And then I fell into creative writing because the head of the creative writing department, Dan Lamberton, just really inspired that desire to put like life on the paper. I don't know how else to explain it. He just inspired this desire to creatively write.
And Michaela, you're using a skill that you're gifted at. And this is something that we like our English majors to know. Not only can you do the things that you love to do and become experts at doing that, but you can also work, as Danielle said, in just numerous different jobs, right?
Oh yeah.
So you'll be able to use these capacities much more broadly than we initially think we can.
It's such a versatile major. It would apply to anything, like Danielle said, going into business. You know, it just applies in every which way.
So Amelia, why did you choose literature?
So I mostly chose literature because I get really stressed out when I write creatively. I knew I didn't want to have to like create on a deadline. And with literature, you do have to turn in essays on a deadline, but I found that I much preferred analyzing other people's writing to creating my own. Because there's so much to explore in other people's writing, I figured I don't need to add to that canon.
You bring up a good point too, that our skills are both in carefully considering other people's work and carefully considering our own work, and we don't think about how broadly those skills actually apply to, right? We become good at respecting the work of other people, as well as being honest and in some ways, hard on ourselves. And
Yeah.
those are skills that are broadly applicable too.
Hmm.
Josiah, you are a representative of the teaching specialty. So how is it that you decided you wanted to teach English?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that while you don't have to become an English teacher, there's nothing wrong with being an English teacher.
No, there isn't, Josiah. Thank you.
Because I feel like I have had some wonderful, amazing teachers both in high school and college in the English department, and that's part of why I chose this major. I was a little on the fence on a couple different things when I first came to Walla Walla. But I just reflected back on my experience with my amazing high school teachers and with some of the faculty that here at Walla Walla, and I just found that English was something that I loved. And I also, especially this quarter, I'm taking grammar from Dr. Gardner, English grammar. And I really feel almost kind of like I'm falling in love with the language, and I've never really realized more than at this point how messy and complicated this is, and that kind of plays into this language is, and that plays into my reason for wanting to teach. I feel like, especially in our country, there are a lot of people who need better access to this language to be able to effectively communicate with their peers. And I would love to be someone who helps make this language accessible for students, whether it's someone who's learning it for the first time, or whether it's someone who needs to learn how to communicate formally so that they feel like their voice can be heard in a business or a job setting. So that's a little bit of my reasons for why I chose this.
Thank you, Josiah. I also like your background there that I haven't seen before. Amelia?
Sorry, I just wanted to add that the other reason that I chose literature, so I declared my majors. I have two majors, so I declared them pretty late. I was it was spring quarter of my freshman year, so I was undeclared until that time. And I chose literature in part because by that time I knew I was really interested in society. So my other major is sociology. And in literature, you get to kind of look at how, with a literature concentration, you're looking at how literature is affected by and how it affects society. You're looking at kind of those social theories, looking at race and class and feminism and all of that kind of stuff that is really applicable to the real world and to society, and was really helpful. I had a social theory class this year where I had heard of some of the social theories from literature classes that the professor had not even taught before, my sociology professor. So it was really helpful in that regard too.
Thank you, Amelia. Danielle, how did you decide your minor? Did you initially start as a business minor, or how did you make that decision?
Yeah, I did. And my reasoning for that was that I thought that I'd want to work in a business setting. And I decided that a business minor would be the best way to gain sort of practical knowledge about how businesses work, which I definitely did not have as a high schooler. But I also knew that I didn't want to do that for my whole college career, which is why English was the major and business was the minor instead of perhaps the other way around.
Well, and another way to think about this too is that the English major, because it's a Bachelor of Art, it means that we're preparing you with this major specialty, but you also choose a minor specialty. Yes. And you think about that minor carefully, considering the kind of work that you actually ultimately want to do. And Danielle, you're noting you wanted to work in the business world, but you love writing and you love English. So now is a good opportunity, right? College is the best time to do the thing that you love to do, and then enable yourself to do the kind of work or profession that you would like to do by putting that in combination with something else. And as Amelia notes, a lot of English majors double major so that they, again, learn these really specialized skills at the same time that they're studying this broad subject, broad historically and broad artistically, but also just putting that in conjunction. So Josiah, you're English and history, is that right?
Actually, at this point, I'm English and education.
Okay.
So our education program requires that if you're going to do secondary ed, which is what I am, then you have to double major in another subject. So I am majoring in secondary education and English, but I am also pursuing history certification.
Okay.
So that's about a minor, somewhat.
Yeah, actually it's more than a minor. So
yeah.
And if you're thinking about, if you're interested in teaching, it's just useful to be able to think about, again, what secondary specialization you'd actually like to teach in. And you might not know that from the outset, but this is why the advantage of a Bachelor of Arts, that you're taking a lot of classes in other disciplines, and it can put you in a position of knowing that.
Yes, I started, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I started out as a history and English major before I knew which one I really wanted to teach. But like I said, I've kind of been coming to enjoy just the language of English a lot more lately. And so that's where my focus has been drawn. So.
And we would really have to say our specialty is in the details of language, right? I mean, that's that, of course, we're getting all this training in these other disciplines, but ultimately that's why we love this particular discipline and why we're in some ways better trained in those kind of details. And I should note too, the other advantage that you get with the English major is that you're really trained in perseverance and you're trained in grit and you're trained because you have to have you have to have stamina to manage all of this information, right? To manage these difficult texts, to become a strong writer. And I think our students don't necessarily realize that they have a kind of training that other majors don't necessarily have, because you guys stick to it and stick to it, and I see it again and again and again, right? And you do it when it's hard, and you do it when you're tired, and you do it when you don't want to, but you manage to do that. You do that well, Amelia.
Sorry, I feel like I keep having things to say, but I was
and you get trained in oral skills. Let's say that.
I was just talking about this with one of my friends he's an Oregon major, but he's in third quarter survey of literature this quarter. And he was saying, I keep getting bogged down with the reading, like I can't get it all done. And I was like, well, you haven't had this training yet. Like even just reading the amount that we read, we build the stamina, we build the skills to do that, and with the writing too. And it's just, these are not unskilled tasks, I guess. But
yeah,
they're really useful.
And they're, again, saleable tasks, just because you'll be able to work in a career in which you're processing a lot of information and doing a lot of research, and it won't be daunting for you, right? Mm-hmm. So Amelia, what is your plan for a career, and how did you decide the next step for getting there?
So I am hoping to eventually be a mental health counselor on a college campus. And the way to get there was kind of convoluted for me. So when I first declared my major, I wanted to work in social policy, like legislature or whatnot. And I kind of slowly turned away from that and wanted to have a more individual focus. So I pursued the track. Well, I guess first I went in and I had a heart-to-heart with Dr. Bond. And I said, Dr. Bond, what am I doing with my life? And then she referred me to a woman who had graduated from Walla Walla with an English degree and who had then gone on to get a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. And so I got in contact with her, and I kind of started to look at what my options were with my particular degrees. And I would just say at this point, so I applied to graduate schools, and the schools that there were some schools where I thought that my sociology degree would get me in, and it did not. But the school where I did get accepted and where I will be attending to do professional mental health counseling, I'm pretty sure was more interested in my critical thinking skills and in the interdisciplinary aspect of the English degree. So I guess it would just be, I thought about what I wanted to do, and then I figured out how to use the network to do it, and I wrote some application essays. You know what I'm saying?
I like your reference to the network too. And Danielle, can you think about how you're considering a network to get into the business profession?
Yeah, so I just had a meeting with the internship person at school today talking about networking. And for me, I know what I want to be doing as far as tasks, but I am not narrowed down as to where I want to be doing those tasks. So I know I want to start out with copy editing or content creation and work my way up to some sort of full-time editing position. But where I'm going to do that will depend on who I can find that will allow me to work for free for now, and then hopefully get my foot in the door a little bit later on. So it's a long-term process, and it requires a lot of dedication and patience and analytical thinking, which are all things you learn as an English major.
Now, you did an internship last summer, and
Yes.
what was that in?
I interned with the Grand Coulee Dam Area Chamber of Commerce, and I was their social media and marketing intern. So I did a bunch of social media research and worked with local business professionals to put together little promo videos for them and also help them learn how to use social media when they didn't know how. So it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Michaela, what about you? What's your next step in becoming a writer? So you're graduating this June. What are you thinking of next?
The dreaded question. So I am taking a gap year and working on honing my portfolio, my creative writing portfolio, in order to apply to MFA programs, Master of Fine Art programs, which is kind of the idea that I had when I took on the creative writing emphasis. And I actually just today, I think it was today, might have been yesterday, it all blurs together when everything's online, just accepted an internship online writing for a magazine. So that's kind of an exciting little fact that you didn't ask about that I'm telling you.
I am very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, Josiah, you are in your second year at Walla Walla, but you're a junior, right?
Yes.
And what would you say to our incoming freshmen and our potential English majors that you know now that you didn't know then you think would be helpful for them?
I would say one thing is to be completely sure of what credits you might have transferring over when you're planning out your academic career. So if you are like me, my school had a lot of opportunities for Head Start programs or Jump Start programs where you could do college credits while still in high school. And so I did a lot of programs, and I assumed that, like Dr. Bond said, I am a junior in credit standing, but several of my credits that I have are from high school and they do not apply specifically to my major. So I would say, especially if you're a junior or possibly a senior, be looking to see when you're planning on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, be looking to see where your credits land. And also, I would say that the summer before you get to campus, start looking for an on-campus job. This is just a little bit more broad advice, but I, for example, work for the English department, but also for the archives of our library, which is actually really like a strange and beneficial job for my particular major. I have access to a lot of archival materials and first choice on like books and things that are coming into the library that I might need for research or anything else. And so I would say definitely like start looking now for what kind of jobs you might be interested in, and get ahead of the rest of students who might be waiting until they get on campus to start looking for jobs.
That's helpful, Josiah. And I also like that you're thinking about what jobs are on campus that might actually be related to something that you're going to do in a profession too. Of course, any job is useful and any job is going to open up opportunities that we don't necessarily think about, but just know that there are jobs on campus that might well be related to what you're thinking about doing ultimately. So Michaela and Amelia, you are both unfortunately going to graduate soon. But what would you say now that you're near the end about what you think that you would have liked to have known that you know now when you were starting?
Go ahead, Amelia.
All right. Yikes. I don't know. I guess I would say, so like I got a little bit lucky in my particular college course because my sister preceded me here at Walla Walla. And she gave me a few tricks and tips when I was enrolling in classes, and I didn't really know why I was doing it. So I was like, oh, my sister told me to. So I would say consider the honors program, because if you're looking at an English major, then you probably like to read and are interested in reading. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the honors program. But it really is going to give you a lot of skills that are going to transfer over. And I was lucky enough to have that to have done that without knowing about it beforehand per se. But then if you can't, even if you can't do the honors program, or if you choose not to, don't let your AP writing credit come in the way of your freshman writing classes. I think that your upper division English classes are going to be so much easier if you have had writing classes at the college level your freshman year. I have friends who, you know, they let their AP credit carry them through and then really regretted not getting that more specific training early on, especially if you're an English major, like getting that training from like, for example, Dr. Bond or Dr. Klassenbrown, who are going to train you in a very specific way of writing, which will be really useful in your upper division English classes. So I guess I would say plan to take the elementary classes, because even if you're already a really good writer, you're going to be learning slightly different skills that it will benefit you to learn earlier rather than later.
Thank you, Amelia. That actually reminds me that I didn't introduce myself. I'm Dr. Bond, and I chair the English department. And my areas of specialty are the last 200 years, so mainly American literature, also British and American modernism, and I'm also a scholar of poetry. So that said, Michaela, let's go to you and get your wisdom.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot like that, Amelia.
As I said, we're good team members. See?
Yeah, that's right. I came into the English department a little late, and I think part of the reason why I'm able to still graduate in 4 years with having transferred schools and switched my majors and my minors and like done all of that was I had an incredible advisor who like sat down with me for hours upon hours and would like map out what each year had to hold. So really, they're like, don't be afraid to make that, make those appointments, sit down with your advisor, like really be proactive about that with them, because they're there to help you.
That's good.
To add to that too, like the English department has some of the best advisors on campus, hands down. Just because that is one benefit of it being a smaller department. They and you know, English professors tend to be detail oriented, which is nice.
As I was saying.
But like Michaela is saying, yeah, it makes all of the difference in the world, and they're really great about it. So if you're going to declare a major your freshman year and switch out of it, English is a good one to declare so that they can set you up for success.
The problem is you'll never switch out. That's the thing.
Well, right.
It's not there. It's just it hooks you.
Uh-huh.
What about Danielle? What advice might you give?
Well, I was also going to recommend the honors program because that is one of the things I am most grateful that I did in addition to picking English as a major. Not only because the things you learn are just so much more in-depth and enriching and fascinating than you could possibly imagine, but also because it's a really good group of people if you need some friends to ground you throughout all 4 years. It's so much different from if we were at a big university and you're in a class of 400 and you never see any of those people ever again. It's you see the same 20 people all the time, and it's great because they're good people. One thing I wish I had done more is something I knew that if I told my younger self to, she still wouldn't do it, which is read more of the classics when I was in high school, which all I wanted to read was novels, and that's still most of what I read in the free time anyways. But I do wish that I had read more of like classic great American novels and that sort of thing.
You might well find, so when I was in graduate school, I remember sitting in classes and I was often in classes with undergraduates and graduates. And I was just always amazed at how good they were at talking about popular culture. So like, don't think that what it is that you've actually paid attention to isn't valuable because it is. So even Danielle, even though you're saying, you know, you wish you had read more classics, but you're also conversant in ways with popular culture, and that will be useful for you on social media too.
Yeah.
So I just liked to hear, you know, people who think well and like to think are as good at thinking about a classic text as they are, you know, a GIF. So you'll use all of your skills in the same way.
I was doing that yesterday. I'm in literary and critical theory right now, and we were studying deconstruction. I deconstructed a meme for my parents, and they were wildly entertained and massively confused. It was so much fun.
Right? I did for grammar this past week. I did a textual analysis of some of my favorite tweets. You know,
great.
because it's a free write and
Yeah.
it uses grammar. So
Well, and I think we have to realize too, I mean, it is delightful to actually send text messages with a bunch of English majors, because you think about that, right, with the same kind of care as you think about something else, knowing that you are writing for a particular audience in a particular way and you need to pay attention to how you're writing, which is why, Danielle, you're going to be in a good position to think about social media when you move to that particular profession.
I also would like to throw in really quickly, I am also part of the honors program and I highly recommend it. I think my favorite part of it so far was my first year, my freshman year, as an English major and as an honors student. There will be two classes that you'll be taking all year long. Survey of British and American Literature for your English major, and Western Thought for your honors general studies program. And the two complement each other really well, and what you're learning in one class will be built on in another class. And so that was very helpful when it came to things like tests or essays, when I could recall what I learned in my other class from my other professor and tie it in with what I was learning in the whatever class I was doing the project for. And I just felt like that really, really enriched my education my whole freshman year. So.
And just so you're demonstrating there just cross-disciplinary studies, right? That you have, of course, you have that advantage built into the English major, but the way you're thinking, you're actually doing that across other programs and across other disciplines as well. So I wanted you, let's see, it's about 3:30. So I wanted to mention a couple things, because several of you have talked about honors, and there is an honors interest session at 6 o'clock. So it's right after this. You might want to be able to get on and to pop into that interest session. And then I also wanted to know that there's a final session at 7 o'clock. And so you can sign up. So our U-Days leaders will be leading that final session, and you can sign up for that on the main webpage at 7. So if after this conversation you're interested in joining the honors interest session, that's still available for you. And then the major final session at 7 as well. So can you talk about your work as readers for the English department? So all of you are actually working for us, and can you talk about what skills you feel like you've gained in working for the English department? So Michaela, let's begin with you.
Yeah, so I'm a reader for the head of the creative writing department, and that is such an interesting position, because you are dealing with very human, very real, personal essays and people that walk in through those doors, while also trying to figure out how to critique their writing and their grammar and that kind of thing. So it's quite an interesting balance, and I think it's given a good sense of how how to do that kind of thing with grace, with tact, without crushing hopes and dreams, and encouraging people to write their story. So it's been such a interesting dynamic to critique the grammar while also encouraging someone to continue to write their story because it's worth writing.
Yeah, you're actually representing a really useful skill that's transferable to the workplace too, right? That you're being careful about the human being, right? You're being careful about personal interactions as well as addressing problems that need to be examined. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Josiah, as a reader for the department?
So I work for one of the professors of writing 121 and 122, which is just the very basic entry level college writing classes. And it just reminds me constantly, these are people who haven't had a lot of formal experience writing papers. And so there's usually several mistakes that are being made, very basic mistakes. And my job is to go through and gently correct and remind, hey, remember to use this font, or remember to use these, complete sentences, or organize your structure a little bit showing people where to organize their structure a little bit cleaner. And that just reminds me constantly of the little things that I have let slide since I was in 121 and 122, or and so I am constantly being reminded, oh, I need to remember that I am doing this in my work, and I need to remember that I'm following this structure. I don't do a lot of what Michaela is doing. I don't really comment on people's ideas or total design yet. I just do a lot of the preliminary markings, but it is extremely helpful for me in remembering what I should be doing in my writing.
Yeah, we're constantly learning how to be writers ourselves by looking at other people's writing. So, you know, I appreciate that all of our students learn to be attentive and respectful and careful with anyone's sentence, as well as they're being attentive and careful and respectful to the sentences by the best writers in the world, right? I mean, that's the kind of egalitarian view that we should have with writing, right? That we should take as much care with everybody's writing as we do in reading really great writers. Amelia, what about you?
I think for me, like, and this was kind of the same for when I was a writing tutor at the tutoring center, but finding a way to comment on someone's writing in a way that is not just like, this is wrong and it needs to change, but instead trying to find a way to guide them to a more effective way of saying something or a more correct way of saying something. Like I find that I make a lot of my comments on people's papers in the form of a question, like, how might you be more specific here? Or how might you be clearer in this one regard? And so I think, like, kind of what you're saying, showing respect to the person, not only in terms of reading their writing carefully, but also, you know, they're capable of learning and they should be learning. It's not just one person is right and another person is wrong, but recognizing how to respect their ability to learn, I guess. And then that's a skill that I have built as well, right? So like it benefits both of us, I hope.
You also sound like that's good training for being a counselor.
I hope so.
Well done, Amelia.
Oh, thank you.
How about you, Danielle?
I work as a reader for a couple different professors, and I do the same sorts of things the others have talked about, commenting on papers for little mistakes and occasionally grading the odd reading quiz. One of the things I would like to point out is that this is one of the few jobs on campus that has been allowed to move online in the event of everything. So I'm very, very, very grateful for that. And also, like Amelia said, tutoring has been really wonderful job to have as well, just for learning the different perspectives that students have, because the students we have in the tutoring center, a lot of the ones that I see are international students or students whose first language is not English, and that just provides such a really fresh, organic perspective of the English language. And they say things that are so poetic that I would never have thought of. It's wonderful to sort of expand your perspective when you don't expect it to be. I've really enjoyed that.
Thank you, thank you. So we want to actually open up a time for question and answers. If all of you want to just write in a question to the Q&A section. And I'm actually going to leave you with our majors so that you can ask them questions and not have anyone else observing, and let them just, you know, we just want you to be able to see what it's really like in our program and with the English major. And we certainly appreciate all of you joining us today. And I hope to be in contact with you after, and we hope to have you at Walla Walla College in the fall. And we hope to be actually on campus, but if we are on campus, you can see that we like each other virtually as well. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of our English majors, and welcome to Walla Walla University.
Thank you, Dr. Bond.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Bond.
Bye.
Do all of y'all know how to use the question and answer feature? I think there's a Q&A box at the bottom, and you should be able to just type a question in, and then we'll be able to see it. Just
That's
so
good to know. I don't think I knew that either.
I didn't before the training session for this, like for the virtual U Days thing.
Yeah.
Oh, my cat is jumping up on things. This is my cat, everyone. Whoa, she does not like being picked up. Sorry. Ooh, Danielle, you should answer this one.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna click the answer live thing. Yeah, proofreading and editing is what I want to be doing right now, and I think either the literature or the creative writing emphasis could be really good for that. I chose creative writing because I wanted to work on my writing skills specifically, but if you want to be doing proofreading or editing in an academic setting, like working with other professional writers in the sense of people that are writing academic journals, then the literature emphasis might be a better choice, but you can't go wrong with creative writing. As to what types of jobs are available, that there are so many different variations of proofreading and editing. Like, I had no idea before I started looking into this, and it varies slightly based on each field. There's technical editing for like trade journals and that sort of thing. There's something called line editing and copy editing where you're looking at just minute grammar mistakes. Proofreading is a bit more general, and editing is like even more general. And there's different kinds of editors who edit for like content or stylistics. And so it all, it depends on what you want to make of it. And you can also pretty darn well pick which industry you want to work in. So right now I'm thinking of working either in business or the health and wellness sector. So working on some sort of publication or website that would do health related content, but then editing it for the writing. So sometimes you don't even have to know about whatever topic you wind up editing for, as long as you understand the writing, which is one of the really interesting things about that field, is that you can take a set of skills that you learned in college and apply that pretty much anywhere, which is one of the most encouraging aspects of uncertainty, is knowing that you will, regardless of what you wind up doing, have a good foundation to get there.
And along the lines of that, jobs that you can have in college while you're still in college that would help towards that. Obviously, working for any of the teachers, because you're doing a lot of that kind of editing, that looks great. Danielle, do you work in the tutoring area?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So that would be a good option as well. And then I know we have in the basement of the admin building, we have what is it called? West Wind or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is the magazine that,
Like the alumni magazine, right?
Yeah, the alumni magazine, and they hire or they pay their interns. I'm not sure which, but that's also another great option
I would say
for having a
too,
job.
the
Go ahead,
Collegian
Amelia.
is huge. Because the Collegian is always looking for copy editors. So the Collegian is the campus newspaper run by the student body. And so like how Danielle was saying, there's all different kinds of editing. Wait, sorry, did you already talk about the Collegian? I was typing in
Nope, I
answers.
didn't. Go for it.
Okay, cool. But there's also different kinds of editing, and because the Collegian is student run and often they publish weekly, so it's often a pretty quick turnaround and things need to be done quickly. So you end up doing all kinds of proofreading as a copy editor there. Like you'll do grammar, you'll do mechanics, you'll do content, you'll do sentence structure, you name it, and there's something that you can be editing there. So I think that's a really good option if you're interested in that area. And usually, like, you probably wouldn't be able to get a job at the Collegian like fall quarter of your freshman year, but depending on who you know and who you could get a reference from, for example, one of the English professors, you could probably start working for the Collegian like winter, spring quarter of your freshman year, and definitely for your sophomore year.
Yeah, I wish I had started working earlier. I didn't start working until my sophomore year, and I'm a junior now, so I'm working for English department and the tutoring center for 2 years straight. So I wish I had started that sooner, not only for the experience, but also because what college student does not want a little more cash to go around? But it's a great experience, and I love the people I work with.
Yeah, I would also say, like Michaela was saying, the tutoring center is so dope. Like, you learn so much by tutoring other people with writing too.
Yeah, because everyone comes in there. Like one day I'll
Right,
be working
yeah.
on a college writing paper for a freshman, and the next day I have a grad student with a sociology clinical observation paper coming in, and the next day it's an engineer with something that I don't understand except for that it's English.
Yeah, and then you also have to like practice a lot of different styles, which is really interesting too. So like, you know, MLA is our style, which we love, but like you'll have to proofread and edit stuff in APA and AP and Chicago. I haven't seen a lot in Chicago, but lots of APA.
I think I'm gonna mark that question as done.
You think we've answered it sufficiently, Danielle?
I don't know. You never know. All right. Yes, please ask us anything that you are curious about at all. We need things to talk about, or we'll be forced to come up with them. So that could be interesting.
One fun fact about the English department is that we have a den, which is basically like a cool little room with a conference table and a tea kettle, which you can come in and make yourself a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And sit down and study or do your work for the department or whatever. It becomes a good time.
One thing nobody's mentioned yet is Pegasus Club. The English department has a club, and it is one of the most amazing experiences ever. You get your money's worth for sure. We have t-shirts and merch, and we go to book sales, and we get free coffee, and every year, except for this one, we have a murder mystery dinner put on by students, which is a costume party and catered dinner, and while you are there, there is a murder mystery theater happening in your midst, and we get to try and figure out what's going on. And it's incredibly cheesy and more fun than you'll have at any party in college.
True.
Yes, so join Pegasus Club. It's really a great experience.
Which you can join the Pegasus Club even if you're not an English major.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, anyone at all.
I would just like to put in a little plug here for other programs that are happening on Walla Walla's campus. So I am always looking for, I don't know, I feel like humanities majors are always being attacked for not having like a real major.
So
because,
rude.
Yeah, it's very rude. People are always saying like, well, what are you going to do with your English major?
Oh,
so I'm constantly,
for the record, the only reason I'm dismissing the teaching concentration out of hand is because I would make a rubbish teacher.
oh,
1 student, sure. 2, no.
well, I felt like I needed to find a way to be validated while I was like in high school. So, or not high school, in college. So I was looking around, and actually, depending on what happens with this COVID-19 situation, everything is up in the air right now. But before everything went south, I was actually working with the student missions department here on our campus to go overseas next year to Lebanon to teach Syrian refugees English as a part of their transition program from war-torn zones into places like the UK or Australia or the US, where they are being sent. They have to meet a certain level of benchmarks to be able to leave. And many of these students have not been in school for multiple years just due to their situation. And this is an awesome opportunity that Walla Walla connected me with through their student missions program. So that is just another thing I would say to look into, definitely. It's not just, I'm not trying to downplay like missionary work in general, but it's not just religious missions, it's humanitarian work. Wherever you're going, you're doing things that are meeting the physical needs of people while also spreading the gospel. successful. And so that for me was just a very cool way, and hopefully still will be a cool way that I'm getting to use my skills as an English major in a very practical and tangible sense in the world to do something. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there is lots of cool stuff happening for you if you're an English major. You do not have to be a STEM major to make a difference in the world.
True. Facts.
Really, really quick, if we can answer this last one, I think before our time is up. Topics of creative writing classes at Walla Walla. There are more than I knew existed. There are poetry classes, narrative writing classes, class on stylistics, which is like writing beautiful sentences using beautiful words. And my favorite so far, which is creative nonfiction writing, which sounds like it might be an oxymoron, but it's actually one of the most fascinating things, because you take real events and you portray them in a way that is much more compelling than if you just wrote the facts down in bullet points. It's
That class
really,
had the best textbooks too. Like
Yes.
the essay anthologies are so
Yes.
good.
yeah, so it's a quite a wide variety, and no matter what kind of creative writing you like, you will find something for you.
Michaela, do you have anything to add to that as the creative writer TA?
Yeah.
Well.
No, I mean, I think part of the beauty of creative writing classes is that it is so creative and versatile, and you can pick basically whatever topic you want to talk about. In poetry, you have lyrical poems, but you also have narrative poems, so you can tell stories with your poems. I wasn't in the stylistics class. I don't know if you were, Danielle.
Yeah, last year I took it, and we were a guinea pig class, and we tried something different, and we used the form of letter writing. So we studied famous authors' letters and did some copying exercises, mimicking, but we also wrote our own letters to people, and the professor mailed them for us. We didn't even have to buy stamps, and it was really interesting to use a form that I personally use all the time, but not many people nowadays do.
Wow, flex.
No, I'm just weird.
What a flex.
Hey.
And then you have other classes where you can choose. You can choose to write nonfiction. You can choose to write poetry. You can choose to write fiction. You can choose whatever, which is part of the beauty of that. I don't know if anyone's ever mentioned either, but we have seminars. Has anyone talked about that today?
No.
I don't think
Talk
so.
about it.
So
Oh.
I'm in the creative
Michaela,
writing.
I'm so sorry. I have to interrupt you. This is Mindy. I'm working at Walla Walla, and we actually need to wrap up this session so you guys have a moment to get ready for your next session, and because I need to go host the next session. So we will see you guys next. Hopefully a lot of you will go to honors.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank
Thanks,
you all
everyone.
for
Mindy.
Great job.
coming in.
Bye. Thank
Do the
you.
English major. It's really great.
It is.